Hey, so today we're going to be talking about targeting in World of Warcraft, and I'm going to tell you about some of the different macros, 3 different macros that are going to help you get your targeting set up. These macros are sort of free in how you use them. You can implement them in other macros, or you can just have them on their own, or make them a bit more complicated, but they are sort of the base of all targeting here. I think they're going to be really simple to understand and help you out a lot, hopefully. So the first one is just target, /target, and then you insert a name. And I've brought my UI here so that we can just establish what all the different things are named in Arena. Starting with yourself, well, you are player. You're also your target name, you can also use that, but player just works for all of your characters, so you can have macros that work on every single one of your characters. This one, target yourself. Target player, target yourself. And then we have the enemies over here. And the enemies over here are in Arena are called Arena 1, and then Arena 2, and Arena 3, obviously. And coming to your party is called Party 1 for the first member of the party, and Party 2. If you use these a lot, I'd recommend you just order it in after group, so that Party 1 is always on top there. Alright, so these are the different things that you can use in a targeting macro. And I would suggest, at least for DPSs, to have target for all of these 3. Just have a basic target macro that targets all of these 3 on 3 key bindings that are sort of next to each other to make sense. I have these on mouse wheel up for this one, mouse wheel down for that one, and mouse wheel click for the third one. If you are a DPS, melee DPS especially, but any actually healers as well, I'd really suggest having focus as well. So that's the second one, focus, and then you put it in, and you put any of these names in here, but I would obviously recommend having it for Arena 1, 2, and 3. That way you can make focus macros in Arena. And I suggest having a system for this that's quite easy. So I said I had mouse wheel up, down, and click. Well, shift mouse wheel up, down, and click would be great for focus any of these. You can also use F1. I think a lot of people use F1, F2, and F3, and then you can just add shift to that, so shift plus F1, F2, and F3. You can do this inside of your key bindings. You don't need macros for this, but the reason I have macros for this is because I have a macro that puts this here, target nearest enemy, and then target, and we'll just put Arena 1. And I really recommend this macro here. Why do I have this macro? Well, quite simply, when I'm outside of Arena, this is going to be invalid, and when I'm inside of Arena, this is going to be invalid, because this one is the target Arena is below it, so it'll just target Arena. What this one up here does is target nearest enemy, which you might know a little bit better as tap targeting. You can also delete the nearest and just target enemy, and it will go between all your enemies. I also like to, on my Arena 2 keybind, to put in on top of that clear target. And obviously I'll put all of these macros in the description. But what clear target nearest enemy, an Arena does is that if you don't have clear target, it'll just scroll through all the different enemies outside of Arena. If you have clear target, it will clear target every time, so only the nearest enemy will be the one that you're targeting, which is sort of like tap targeting, works out really well. So that is just the first macro actually of today. This is number 1, /target. It's quite simple like that. You can see how you can use it in different styles of macros, and you can use focus as well. which is the same concept, right? This is the targeting or focusing macro. I would set this up for all of your arena 1, 2, 3. Maybe your party members, if you're a healer, definitely your party members have these. I actually do the thing opposite on my healer, where I have target party 1, 2, 3 on my mouse wheel, and then I have arena 1, 2, 3 on other buttons. So this is just the basic setup for targeting in arena. Again, I really recommend the mouse wheel for this, or F1, F2, F3. Those are the two sort of key bindings that I think work for most people. If you use a different setup or a different piece of hardware, just use whatever works for you. And set up focus key bindings as well for this next step. That is the next macro. So I'm just going to clear the board and we can talk about that. Alright, we're back here with a nice and clear paint board. And the next macro we're going to be talking about is it's a cast macro of a spell. So we're just going to say cast, put these brackets here because those we need later. And then we're going to say cast cyclone. Alright, cast cyclone, because you can see I have a beautiful cyclone on that guy, and as you just saw, I did not target him to get that. In fact, I've targeted my my shaman over here who desperately needed healing, and I kept him as a target throughout all of that, stunning and cycloning this guy. Overlapping CC, not good. Right, so you can make a macro that casts the spell, cyclone, with the direction of a target. So you don't target anyone in actuality, but the macro has sort of a fixed target. And you could do this at your friend. You could write a name here, so at, and then a player name, but you can also just write, as we established before, at arena 1. Right, so at arena 1, it'll always target arena 1 with your cyclone without actually targeting it. And this called, I call this a direction in a macro. In this bracket here, you can have something else which I call a condition. I think most people call it conditionals, which is sort of like, are you in cat form, are you in combat? Those sort of things can also be here. But if there's an at mark in front of it, it becomes like a direction and you can use it. And you might have figured out already, but this also works if now, say I want to use stun on him, and I have him focused, which I don't right now, but if I do, well, then I can just put focus in, and that's why we want those focus macros from before, just to set the focus, and then be able to mighty bash him. Right, so these are your two ways of targeting specifically CC and arena, but when they're in these brackets, you don't actually target them, so you don't lose your targets, you can keep healing. You can also keep DPSing on one target and CC the other. It works out a ton. I think these two you should probably use focus mostly if you're a melee DPS, and arena 1, 2, 3 if you're a ranged, but I think you should use sort of a combination of the two. Maybe your main CC have arena 1 and then arena 2 and then arena 3 in 3 different macros. And for your sort of your kick and your shadow step, you can just have a focus key for those. That usually works out for you to feel quite flexible with how you play. Of course, this is how you play and you can change it however it is that you want. Some of the spells that I use for this I said before, I'm a healer. And just one offhand thing, I use focus in a little bit of a different way. So I have arena 1, 2, 3 for everything, and I use focus specifically for damaging. Now I have a different video about that. That's called damaging as a healer. I think I may be able to link it here, but I don't know. So it's on my channel. I'll put it in the description. So I don't use any focus on this character, but I obviously do on my some of my other DPS characters. All right. So what do I have as focus macros? Well, we've always already established that Cyclone and Mighty Bash. Well, those I have right here and right here. You can see both are on cooldown because that guy is CC'd, which is great. I also have Entangling Roots here. I even have Wild Charge, and I explain why I do have that later, and Hibernate. Hibernate, I just had more keybinds, so why not put Hibernate there? It's really fun to get people in a hibernate. In this meta, you probably can never use it, but in a slower meta, hibernate is super, super insane. Okay, so why do I have something like wild charge here? That's really, really weird. Well, it's actually just because I used to have shadow step here and kick here for a rogue, so I could just shadow step kick, and in the same way I can go into cat form and wild charge stun, so I can just leap forward to them. I don't know if I did that in this clip. I don't know if I did. Really good example, but I don't think I did. It's not on cooldown. So that's just a way of me jumping, and this is on like close buttons. These are very close buttons, so I can just press those two together. What do I have on focus? Well, on focus, now I said I don't exactly use focus on a healer, but I sort of use it in a different way. We'll talk about that coming up here, but I have soothe, stuff like soothe, right? That's soothe. Why do I have soothe on focus? It's just too much of a niche. It's too much of a niche to have 1, 2, 3, because it's only really warriors that use enrage abilities and hunter pets. There may be some other examples, but usually it's just that. So soothe I just have as a focus, and I can use that if it becomes relevant. And we'll get on to the next macro here. Well, I'll tell you about how also I use my focus as a healer a little bit, but also just a great macro for healers to handle damage and targeting and damage. Just a little bit about that, I think. I do have that other video, but just a little bit about that. So these are sort of the different macros that I would use for PvP, the base macros. Right. So let's clear the board again. Okay, so the last macro here that I want to tell you about is /cast again. We're casting a spell, and then these brackets again, and I'm gonna give it a little bit of an add mark and write something here. I'm gonna write targets, target. And I'm gonna write help here, and I'll explain why I write help here later. And on the same line, maybe I use moonfire. And then right here, I'm going to put a semicolon and write moonfire again. This is a target macro. What this does right here is once things are in the same bracket when making a macro, these both need to apply. And I explained before, this is a direction. It uses something on, you probably guessed, that targets target. So if I have targeted my shaman and my shaman has targeted the hunter and I press this macro, I will use moonfire on the hunter here. That's really, really smart because I can help with the damage without changing target. Again, these are in brackets. I do not target this guy, I just use a spell on him. Help here means that this macro only works if my target that I'm looking at target is a friend. So usually I don't want to damage the target's target of my enemy. That would usually be my friend, but I want to target the target's target of my friends, so I can assist them. This is also, you can also use add assist, I think. That's another way of doing it, or simply /assist. But I think I've always written it like this, so I just gotten used to it. And it sort of makes sense, right? Target's target. Okay, so this semicolon means if this does not apply, just do a red. If this does not apply, this condition, you don't do this. You don't make this macro. If you don't have a help target, this macro just doesn't work. So the semicolon just means jump forward to the next thing if this doesn't work. And the next thing is just without this, so cast moonfire, right? So this just makes it so that it's not an extra keybind, but just an extra thing added to your normal moonfire keybind right here. So it is, I use it on the hunter if I use it right now, because my shaman is targeting my hunter. But if I don't have anyone I need to help, I can just target the hunter myself and cast moonfire. This works for both of those things. It's a really useful type of macro in arena, and I really recommend doing it as a healer, but be careful here. And this is sort of the disclaimer, because if your friends don't have focus macros and don't have arena 1, 2, 3 macros where they don't target the person they CC, if they click on the person they CC and sheep them, something like that, and you use a targets macro and you're not necessarily looking and paying total attention, you just want to put your moonfire out, you could break that CC. So either be careful or just ask your people beforehand, do you ever click to CC? Once you've established that no, they don't, you can start using these macros pretty liberally, not really having to think about. I haven't actually had any real problems with this. I've never broken my friend's CC from something like this. I don't think. Nothing big, at least. So this is how I target in Arena. And I'll just go over again how I do, right? So on my healer, these white here are party macros, 1, 2, and 3. And I use mouse wheel up, mouse wheel down, and mouse wheel button click for those 3. And then I have my cyclone, which I use shift plus mouse wheel up, mouse wheel down, and mouse wheel down, mouse wheel button. For. So if I want to cyclone someone, I'm just shift, mouse wheel up, mouse wheel down. And then I have some down here that I use alt keys for. So F1 is my first mouse button here, and alt plus F1 is my mighty bash. You can do it on anything you like, but I like having like F1, F2, and F3, something like that, so that they're right next to each other for the different targets. If you start doing this, another just recommendation here is this add-on that I use. I think it's called nameplate numbers or something like that. I'll link it in the description, but just puts a little bit of a number here. I don't know if you can see it, a number here over all the enemy characters. You can definitely see this one here, right? It just helps you figure out. But otherwise, 1, 2, 3 is obviously in the direction that they're listed over here. That one that I use for looking at these people here is called S Arena. So just to get all of these here, but otherwise it's just the Blizzard UI visuals. Really like that. I'm just looking over if there's anything that I have forgotten, and I do not think there is, at least in relation to targeting. But if you are a healer, please watch that other video that I did about targeting and damaging as a healer. That really makes it easy to understand what is actually going on. Or what you can do to target better when damaging as a healer. Sorry about that. So I hope that's useful, and set up your macros, or look in the chat here or the description here to see what you can copy, and then come out with your own macros. Obviously, I can't write the same macro for every single CC spell in the game, so I hope you can just figure that one out yourself. That was the 3 macros for targeting in PvP, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching.